Welcome to Tile Trends by Tile Club, a woman-owned tile company based out of lovely Northern California. This podcast keeps you up to date on all the latest in tile trends and design. And this week, we're sitting down with two incredible guests, JP Style and SD Shower Pro, to discuss the art of tile installation. Joining me today is my remarkable co-host, John Adams of Tile Club.
So excited to have you both here today. So let's jump into it. Jacob, could you tell us a bit about your tile contractor services? How long you've been in business? Maybe a little bit how it's changed from when your grandfather, your dad started till today. Like, how has the shower installation business changed?
Well, I'm a third generation tile contractor. I run my father's company. He started it in 1977. And also I have SD Shower Pros, which is specifically only strictly shower company. But my dad's company specializes in tract homes and also commercial. But as far as the changes go, it's pretty drastic. The tiles have gotten much bigger and the grout joints have gotten much smaller. The tools have gotten much bigger and much more higher prices. So it's definitely changed quite a bit. So I remember back in the day in the 90s, the biggest tile that they ever installed was a 12 by 12. And I haven't installed a 12 by 12 in, I would say, about a decade. And then as far as, as far as like the methods go, like, I mean, from my grandpa's point of view, I mean, they floated everything 100%, floors, walls, everything. And they didn't even have thin set. All they had was cement, and you bonded directly, you mix pure cement. And then they came out with thin set, which is, for thinner applications. And then you would mix it with acrylic when you're using it to bond to more harder surfaces. So there's a lot more to it, but now you have the pre-mixed thin sets that have the additives already in it. So they're trying to make things easier with coming out with a lot more products, and there's a lot more companies nowadays, which the technology is really trying to catch up, but the tiles are getting bigger. So there's a lot more tools out there.
Like a race, isn't it? It's always changing. The tiles are changing, and with it comes more challenges. Like I know, like they have new leveling spacers to make it easier for the real large formats, but some of these are getting like 48 by 48 size. I mean, they're like slabs going on the wall, aren't they? So yeah, I hear you. That's great. So and JP, could you tell us about your experience and your services?
Well, it's very similar to upbringing. My dad started a tile company in 1978, and I took it over kind of maybe 22 years ago. And then he kind of retired, and I just been doing it on my own. Not as big as what he did, but just kind of keeping it simple and just doing one washroom at a time. No crews, no track building or anything like that, but just one custom at a time. That's how I like to do it nowadays.
Let's figure out where you guys are from in case any of our listeners happen to be in your respective areas and are looking for someone to install their tile. So let's start with you, Jacob. Where are you located?
I'm in San Diego, California, but I only service the area of North County, only 15 minutes around because the area is so saturated with high-income housing because it's right next to Rancho Santa Fe, which is the highest per capita real estate in America. So there's plenty of work out here.
Wow. How about you, JP?
So I grew up in Toronto, Canada, and just live like 45 minutes north now. I'm in the Simcoe County district now. So, I try and stay close to home, but it's usually, I try and stay about an hour. I'll travel an hour each way if I need to, if the job's the right one for me, for sure.
Jacob, so we're neighbors. I'm here in San Diego as well. Yeah. So both you and JP, you use. I've seen I did a little bit of research. I've seen on your Instagram, on your website, use different types of waterproofing methods. So maybe we'll start with Jacob and then JP. I know you use, I think it's Miracrete.
Yeah, it's a P1 HydroGuard made by Miracrete. I use it in combination with a carbon fiber mesh. It's very similar to a commercial roofing system. Okay, it's an elastic. So because the waterproofings by themselves, they advertise it that it can be done by itself, but I like reinsurance because I warranty my showers for 10 years personally. So the water and the shower pan is the most important part of a shower, because you can do, beautiful work, and if it leaks, then that's
it, isn't it? Yeah.
It's a beautiful piece of leaky work. There's a lot of people who do the hot mop, and I love the hot mop. I think it's great. It's a turnkey solution, especially for DIYers. I say, don't even try to waterproof it. Just pay the money, have a professional come out and do it. And it's going to be done right. And then you can tile your shower yourself.
JP, so I've seen you do a lot of Schluter. So what would you, compare like a hot mop process, like what with Schluter, how do you find that?
Well, here in Canada, to be honest, I've never heard or ever seen hot mop.
Right. It is, I think it's more of a San Diego, very local San Diego, actually, more like West Coast thing, isn't it?
It's pretty amazing on how diverse the methods are. I mean, we're not that far away. We're still in North America. We're still in the same country, basically. And we have so many different methods. In Canada, it's always been like a PVC liner, OD drain, and that was it. Dry pack and no waterproofing. Just that's it for a long time. And there's not really a lot of you don't have to pass a test. You don't have to get it inspected. And those are things like I think there's some people trying to get that changed so we can all be on the same page, get everything done right so nobody's getting bamboozled by bad contractors, right?
Yes.
Yeah, it's important, isn't it? So I know, with the waterproof, I think it's one of the most, obviously the most important things for the shower, because especially if it's like on a second floor or anything like that, it can cause, huge amounts of damage. And hot mop is like one of those true, tested ways. It always works. It's very solid. And I worked with like Schluter and different types of waterproofing systems. They all kind of do the same things, and they'll have different warranties. Some allow you to kind of tile a little bit faster than others, right? So you can do it and you can tile the same day kind of thing. So
there's a lot of people that just they use a roll-on, which is maybe they don't have their hands don't like trowels that much. Maybe they don't like trowel work. It's a little bit more labor intensive. I was born with a trowel in my hand, so I prefer the trowel method, or use the Curdy board, whatever job needs to be having done. But I really like the Schluter product. That's probably my favorite. I've tried all the other ones. Schluter they just have everything in place for what you need.
Yeah, everybody has their own one they just love, and they get good at it, and it's like that's what works. So very cool.
So Jacob and JP, you both mentioned, things that can go wrong. Like you don't want to have to double back. You don't want to have somebody put, a large investment into a big tiling project only to have to come back, do it again. What would be some tips that you would both give to potential clients who are vetting a contractor?
Number one is, don't just hire someone who doesn't have a license. If you hire, because that's like the biggest thing. I hear so many people who go, man, this guy did this. I'm like, well, do you have a license? And they go, no. I'm like, then he wasn't a contractor. Stop saying a contractor screwed you over. Because it's like, that's like the main thing. It's like, no, it's because there's so many things you can do for a contractor if it does go bad or south, but you lose your license. It's called abandoning the job. That's the number one reason why people lose their license. And that's why you have to hire someone who has a license, and you avoid that whole problem. But the number one thing is get at least 3 bids and make sure they're all bidding on the exact same thing, apples to apples, because if it's not the same thing, it's not the same price. And then if you want to go get a contractor, I recommend going to your local tile store, going down there and asking them who they recommend. And they have a long list of all reputable contractors who can give you a bid.
Fantastic. JP, any input there?
Yeah, Jacob's hit a lot of key points. References are huge. Portfolios, let me see your work. For a client, I think that's huge. That's one of the main reasons why I started doing social media is, I used to carry around a photo album of all my work, but I could have took pictures of anything, right? So I said, I got to make this personal. I got to make it good. Maybe have some fun with it so people feel comfortable with the work that I do. So that's how that started, coming about. And then it just grew from there. I was like, okay, I'm getting a little bit of a response. People are liking that they're seeing what the work is done. And that's part of my selling feature when I go and quote a job is that I will videotape my whole process of your work, of your job, your bathroom, whatever, and you can watch it basically live as it happens.
That's so awesome.
That is cool.
Yeah. I love kind of the purpose behind the social media marketing side of things, but also like what you see is what you get. And it's so cool to see both of your personalities shine through, and you are building like this authenticity with your followers, this belief in your products and your service and what you can offer. So kudos to both of you on that.
Thanks. I appreciate that.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, the whole social media marketing thing, that was honestly, I didn't with me being third generation, there's about 20 contractors, because I am Hispanic. I may not look it, but I am. So there's about 20 contractors in my immediate family, tile contractors, general contractors, plumbing contractors, electrical contractors, you name it, and 10 strictly just tile contractors. So there's quite a bit of us. So I started posting my work, so basically I could show my family what I do and stuff like that. And then I started, getting more of a following. And then I started realizing it's like one of the rare things that happens is you start at zero with a new customer, is they don't know you. It's not their fault that they don't trust you, and you don't blame them. It's human nature. And until they see it, they don't believe it. But with social media, what it's done is they've actually been following me and they've seen it. And now the level of trust that people have in what I do, it's a level of trust I've never really experienced before. And I really love it.
It's funny you say that. It's really true, isn't it? Because it's like I can look at both of you, Jacob and JP, go on your site, and I'm like, these guys know exactly what they're doing. Like this, I would trust this guy hands down right now to do anything, it's shower related or tile related. So whereas, if I'm looking for a contractor, in a random place where I don't know anybody, it would be like, I'll be very wary. I'll be asking all the questions, and it's like it would be very more like that kind of conversation, trying to build that trust, isn't it?
Yeah. You're always looking for those keys. Like you're seeing what kind of truck you drove in. Like, all right, what's that? Is it? Yeah.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, there's a lot of contractors that just work out of their truck, and that's their office, it's their shop, that's their everything, right? And then there's other ones that have a shop and have a crew, and like there's different contracts for sure. But references are huge. If they come from someone that, reputable, like you said, Jacob, like your neighborhood tile store, they have a long list of guys that are in there every day, and good guys and bad guys. So, it's just playing off what people know, what people can tell you about certain people, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
Yeah. And also a really big one is Yelp. Yelp works pretty darn good as well. Yeah. It works really good for contractors, because also too, I think Yelp kind of made contractors a little more customer service better, because I saw it in my father. No offense to the guy, love him, but he's a little grumpy. And it was like, there was no ever really, you couldn't write a review on someone. And he was really good at what he did, and he was the best, but his customer service was kind of like, he's a grumpy old Italian artist dude who was half Hispanic, and he's like, he got a little bit edge to him, he'd be a little rude, like, a little rude sometimes. And I'm just like, no, Dad, we can't do that. We gotta be nice. They're gonna write a Yelp review. So it's like, it's like, you got that always in the back of your head. It's like, sorry about that. I'll clear it. It's like, I really like, a lot of people don't like Yelp. I love Yelp. I think it's great.
Yeah, you can't change the old school generation, that's for sure.
So what advice would you give to the aspiring tile installer out there? Like, what would you say to them?
My thing is pure honesty. Just be honest with the client, what they need, what they would, what they can expect. If you as a contractor see that there might be an extra charge because you might see a problem down the road, you might have to change as you're demoing or whatever, just be honest with them. Don't tell them after, so they're not getting that bill at the end and saying, I had to charge you $500 extra because your wall was not plumbed.
Right.
So just be open and honest. That's my fail safe. I tell them right off the bat, listen, this might be a problem. This might be a problem. Let's find the solution before we get too far. And that's where you can make or break the contractor-client relationship. They might not like it. They don't want to spend any more money. So that's when you have to be the honest person. Say, okay, you want it done right, but you don't want to pay for it. Okay, maybe this is not the job for me. It might be a problem, right? So contractors have to be wary as well, for sure.
You have to vet your customers just like they're vetting the contractors. I mean, that's part of it.
Definitely. That's really good advice. I really like that. Honesty and communication. Man, communication is the biggest deal. It's the more there's no such thing as over communicating with your customer. Also, what I like to do is when I'm doing showers, there's often dry rot. So what I do is and then also is write a contract of exactly what's going to be done, what area is going to be tiled, and list the type of tile you're using, because we all know that different types of tiles take different times to install. And there's a lot of misconceptions that so know what type of your tile you're going to be using beforehand. Don't give them a price and then you show up and it's 24 by 48, and they say, well, I thought it was bigger, so it would cover more. It would go cheaper and it'd be easy for you. It's like, no,
that's a misconception.
That's the biggest myth out there. It's like, no, actually, when it gets bigger, it takes more time. It's more of a hassle. The tools required to do it are 3 times as expensive. And, it's just like, I'm doing a shower right now with 12 or 24 by 48 tiles. And there's only 2 full pieces this entire shower. And there's over 34 pieces, and it's only 2 full ones. And when you're cutting these things, they're $100 a tile. So there's a lot more pressure, and it's just, there's a lot more to it. So and also when you go smaller with a 3x6 subway and you're doing actual quarter rounds, those all take more time. So just list the type of tile you're going to use. So everything's nice and just be as clear as possible before you even start the job. And then also when you're doing showers, 9 out of 10 times there's dry rot. So have a clause in there for doing dry rot and have an hourly rate and then charge for materials separate. And if you just have that little clause already set up and tell them if you're going to charge them for any unforeseen things at this rate, then they already have it in their mind, that's going to happen. So it's just as long as you give them preoccupied expectations, it's amazed by how smooth things go.
For sure.
I love it.
Awesome. Sound advice. Thank you so much for that. So I have a question, because you both have kind of mentioned materials and the 24 by 48 and all that. Is there one tile material or style that you wish you never had to see again or install again?
I got one. I hate subway tile 3x6.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
It's confession. I really don't like it. I wish it would just go away forever. And quarter rounds, not a fan, but I can do it and I'll do it to the best quality. But a little bit of my soul's lost a little after that job. But I love big format 24 by 48s. I love those. And also one thing I think looks beautiful, but it takes so much time to do is miter cut edges instead of using trim. I love the look, but man, is that timely.
Awesome. We have a running joke on our team that if we ever see another white subway tile, so help us. There they are, all over the place. But good thing for you, Jacob, that the large format, stone look tiles
more and more
are trendy right now, and they're beautiful. So
yes.
I'm along the same lines. I mean, he hit some really good points. I mean, the 3x6 is, even though it's come in and out of popularity so many times over the last 30 years, that you doing back-to-back 3x6 for weeks. And then it goes away and you're like, oh, I wish I got a 3x6 backsplash just to get off these penny mosaics or these marble mosaics that are also hard to work with. But definitely probably the worst for me is mosaic backsplashes. Mm-hmm. Mosaic backsplash it's probably one of the more difficult ones to do, just because, it's mostly water saw or grinder, and half the time those mesh pieces fall apart and you're trying to stick them to a wall. So it's very time consuming. All depends on when they're made or where they're made. It makes a big difference. But my favorite right now is probably large format, anything bigger than 12 by 24, square or rectangle. But yeah, I mean, it's such a clean look, less grout joints. I mean, it'll look cleaner longer than 12 by 12 is used to in the 80s for sure.
Yeah, I think the large format's going to be staying around.
Yeah, pretty much. It's going to force the tile guy, because what used to be tile and stone. They used to be separate trades, and then the tile guys kind of came in and pushed out the stone guys. Right. Or they became one. And then because you used to get, back in the 80s, you were getting $10 a square foot to put in natural stone because only a mason had to do it. Right. So, and then the tile guys came in and kind of took that over. And now I see with the slabs, I see a lot of the slab guys kind of really hesitating for the porcelains. And I see the tiles are getting much larger. So I think in the future, that trade is going to be meshing here pretty soon. That's what I see.
That's very interesting, actually. I mean, it's a whole different, segment for us, Lindsay. But porcelain slabs versus, because they're getting to a similar size, actually. And there are some people that specialize just in porcelain fabrication on slabs, and they do an amazing job. So
I think
to watch out for.
Slabs are definitely harder to work with than, let's say, natural stone. Just because natural stone, the granites, the marbles, there's so much you can do with them in terms of finishing. You can, so many profiles on the edges, on counters and stuff like that. Porcelain, you're almost forced to miter everything all the time.
All miter, pretty much.
And that's such a fine line of holding that grinder or the machine that does it. I mean, you have one chance, and it could explode or it could get a chip or whatever. With the granite, you could fill that chip. You can work with it, sand it out or whatever, right? So there's definitely very tricky.
Good point.
What would be your 3 go-to brands and types of tools that you just have to have for the perfect job?
My favorite saw nowadays is the Ruby rail saw. I really love that. I think it's the best rail saw on the market. And I've had other brands before, and they honestly stopped cutting square after about a year. This one I've had for about 5, and it still cuts square true. I love it. And then also the blades that they make, they are a lot more, because you have a lot of deflection with different types of blades and thinner, cheaper ones. So they have a really stiff blade, which allows for a lot less walking, they call it, when you're doing long cuts. And then it allows for, and then they specifically put a blade pattern, a diamond pattern on the blades, which allows for a lot more of a smoother, less chipping of a cut, and it allows for a faster cut. So, and then as far as hand tools, I love Milwaukee because I feel like Milwaukee is the Gucci of power tools.
For me, it'd be gotta have a good grinder. I'm a Makita grinder kind of guy, but I also have my Milwaukee stuff as well. I'm a huge Milwaukee fan. And definitely a Sigma for just regular snap cutter. I've been a Sigma guy for a long time. And for wet saw, I have my DeWalt, which is my go-to because it'll just work all the time. And it'll, change the blade to different kind of stones. It works pretty good all the time. But yeah, those would be my go-tos, definitely.
Yeah, actually, I was going to say is it's impossible for one company to make the best of everything. And I think that the Makita, as Makita grinders, no one could touch them.
No, that's
no one could touch them. They have these little tiny, they're miniature jackhammers for the Makitas, those little smaller ones. Yeah, that one is the best. But then you go to the bigger ones, and I feel like Bosch are the best jackhammers.
Exactly.
So every company has their best of everything. But I feel like for your battery operated tools and your tool bags and the carrot pack outs, that's what I meant by Milwaukee. Yeah. Yeah, you look pretty cool when you walk in with that pack out. You're like,
for sure. It's not by accident that they're Ferrari colors too. I'm a Ferrari fan, but anyway.
Yeah.
I think it's the Ruby 250 you have, right? That rail saw, wet saw. Yeah, it's amazing. If I ever got into the installation part, I'm like, that's what I would use. No.
Oh yeah, it gives you muscles.
Yes. It was great having you guys. Thank you so much. You've been really good. So it's been a great conversation, I feel. So.
Yes, thank you for the invitation.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Thank you guys so much.
And that concludes this episode of Tile Trends by Tile Club. Be sure to tune in next time, and until then, happy tiling.